All right, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Innovate Anything, Entrepreneurship in a Changing World. So we're really excited to have everybody attending today. We have a great guest, Kevin Meredith, and then a few of our faculty, Bill Dresnick and Dr. Richard DiMartino. So I do just want to, some housekeeping items, and I'll turn it over to Dr. DiMartino. So the program today is brought to you by our MBA and the Master's Program in Technology, Innovation Management, Entrepreneurship. So if you do have questions about furthering your education with a graduate degree, definitely let us know. The other piece, please feel free to use the Q&A function if you have questions, okay? So we're gonna run through about 35 minutes of discussion, some scripted questions, just things to prompt discussion, and then we can certainly jump in at any point with discussion questions, but we'll do some Q&A at the end as well. So feel free to use that. If you do need closed captioning, you can select that, the live transcript feed down at the bottom of your screen. And then we do have Eliza here as an interpreter, and thank you for being here today as well. All right, but Dr. DiMartino, I'll turn it over to you and we'll get started.
Well, thank you, Matt. First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming, and particularly our guest, Kevin Meredith. What we wanted to do with this session is really showcase some interesting thinking in this changing world that we live in. I think the artificial intelligence chatbots that have come in have made a lot of people begin to really think about themselves and their futures, with technology being able to do much of what we used to do. So we wanted to have a conversation about this, talking and discussing how people can prepare themselves and to actually assure them that that there's new opportunities. When there's challenges, there's new opportunities. This is going to be really a discussion, and we have a panel, but we're showcasing one of our very successful alums. We have Kevin Meredith here with us today. And Kevin actually has a long background, 20 years of innovation and entrepreneurship. He is an alum of the infamous and the celebrated RIT in the is a BS MS in Industrial and Systems Engineering. He has an MBA and a variety of other credentials, particularly related to environmental, ethical, responsible and business strategies from Pepperdine. So he has a wide variety of academic backgrounds, but what he has done over the last 20 years is he's worked for some very innovative companies. He spent a good many years, and he can tell you if the number of years over at Boeing. And in Boeing, he led innovation units and units in trying to come up with new incremental improvements. He then bundled them to do a system-wide innovation system. And then when he left Boeing, he has been in a consulting group called WESI, which is, and I don't know if I pronounced that right, Wellness, Education, Society, Ethics, and Environment, where they have a consulting arm which helps organizations innovate and empower individuals within their community. And we're very pleased to have him with us today. We also have Bill Dresnick, who has been at RIT for almost as long as I have, who has been a leader through being an associate dean, through department heads. His background is in both consulting and law, but he looks at the innovation aspects of that. And myself, I'm Richard DiMartino, and I'm RIT's endowed chair for innovation and entrepreneurship. And I'm a faculty member in the College of Business, and I run the Entrepreneurship Center here at RIT. So how we're going to logistically start this is we're going to give the floor to Kevin, and Kevin is going to give he's going to give about a 20-minute talk on this. I will add in a few comments afterwards about the changing world, about preparation, about how you think about it. And then Bill Dresnick will also comment, but then ask some questions. What we're hoping for in this period is that for those individuals listening that have thoughts, comments, questions, that they address the panel, and we'll answer those as best as we can. Again, Kevin, we want to really thank you for making time out of your very busy schedule to do this for us. We know that you're always very gracious to RIT and to the students of RIT. So I am now going to give you the floor and put myself on mute.
Thank you very much. Would you mind just putting up that the background slide as we start off a little bit of the background? So, hey, everybody, thank you. I love innovation. I think about innovation probably more than I think about anything else on the planet. And it's a bit of an obsession of mine. The thing that I really focus on is that delivering real meaningful value to the world, and how innovation can be this amazing enabler for people to do things beyond what they ever imagined they could. And I, starting at RIT many years ago, I barely knew the word innovation. I mean, you can't go to a tech school without, I guess, some awareness, especially if you're pursuing engineering. But it was definitely not the same as it is today. In fact, the idea of it being a formal discipline at that time it's still embryonic, but it was even more so at that time. And as it relates to like trying to figure out what you want to be when you grow up, or where you should go next, how you can utilize an MBA to help create a better world, I think it's really important that you identify a pathway. You have an identified pathway that you think is how you want to spend your life, and what it is that you care about doing in that life. And from there, that pathway can be manifested in many different ways, and recognizing that the way that you may be thinking about it today, or the way you thought about it 5 years ago, or any other point in time, is likely to shift. We live in a dynamic world. I mean, very much aligned with the topic today. We have to develop the ability to know when to have fortitude and grit and drive through, and when to read the situation and augment and change and adjust. And that's a lot easier to say than it is to do. But if you look at my career that's up on the screen here, the best so co-op that I went to, Boeing Company, Southern California. I got to leave Rochester for a few months, 9-month co-op. It was an awesomely long co-op, and was exposed to things that I never thought I would be working on. Even though my grandfather was an aerospace engineer, and my inspiration to become an engineer, I could not imagine that I was going to be starting my career building rockets. So that little rocket that you see on the far side of the screen is a Delta II family of rockets. I believe still to this day, the most successful commercial rocket family ever. SpaceX is doing a good job of catching up. But I was right there building these giant things that are taking stuff to space, and seeing how the real world operated. I didn't think I was going to come back and work for Boeing. I didn't think I was going to move back to Southern California, because I had a plan. I had a plan that I was going to go back to RIT. I was going to do combined BS, MBA. Every free elective that I had as an RIT student was going directly into that pathway. Everything was in business. And then I got to the end, and a very important conversation I had with my then department head, who is now the head of the business school by total coincidence. Dr. Mutz-Rawls said, you know what? If you just take a couple more classes and do a thesis, you can have a Master of Science. Then you can go back and get your MBA some other time. You know, the real value of an MBA is having a bit of experience to partner with it. So that was one of the first major examples in my academic career where, had I just been like totally focused on the plan that I already had, I would have ignored that, and it would have been a completely different future that I realized. Fast forward about 8 years into my career at Boeing, same thing. I thought, I'm going to just go get the experience at this large company. I will then transition out with my own company and do some kind of consulting or something. I'll get my MBA while I'm there, and then I'll be good to go. What I didn't appreciate in that scenario is the amount and quality of opportunities beyond my myopic view of what I would be doing in that company were enormous. I was exposed during that same period, just barely getting my toes dipped in the water for innovation. If I had followed through with my plan to this mapping of my career that I had already strategically outlined, I probably wouldn't be talking to you today about innovation. We may be talking about something else by chance, but there's a good chance that we wouldn't be talking about innovation, because it wasn't for another few years after that that I actually went and got my MBA and was exposed to the opportunity to really pursue innovation inside of a company that literally helped put people on the moon. And so having the direct access to how that level of innovation unfolds over the time periods of the aerospace industry, but then seeing the emerging companies of Google, Amazon, these companies didn't even exist when the International Space Station was being conceived, when the space shuttle was in its peak. And these are hallmarks of the aerospace industry. So there was a bit of opportunity for me to go out and explore, what are these emerging companies that are doing in Silicon Valley? How are they approaching innovation? How are they doing it differently than we would as a large producer of, the largest exporter in the United States? Company of 180,000 employees, pushing 100 years by the time I left the company. And that was not to poke it in the ribs and say innovation is broken here. It's no, there's all this opportunity to explore additional ways for innovation to be realized that can propel the company even further in its quest to help, push the boundaries of human possibility. So that's kind of the context in which this chart on the screen is used as a reference point. The other way is, if we look at the types of activities that I did, industrial and systems engineering department really focused my efforts on decision making, open the capability on using real data to inform that decision making. And my particular focus was on ergonomics and human factors. The human factors part I have continued to use to a large extent throughout all of my work. The ergonomic stuff has fallen off. But the principles of aligning work and how work gets done have been important for me to understand and explore innovations in all different forms. And so early on in my career, I was really doing a lot of incremental innovation. I was doing process improvement type work. Now, this is, to this day, has shaped my perspectives on innovation, where often in today's parlance, we hear the importance of disruption. We hear about all these massive breakthroughs that have to kind of be the expectation of what innovation provides. And I would argue that by far, the vast majority of any human-led innovation that has ever comprised the total suite of innovations that have ever been realized are significantly more skewed to these small incremental innovations that occur. And their cumulative effect over time is greater than that of those that are exponentially driven or differentiated. So in my career, I see this parallel between this idea of incremental innovation. Then I'm working on projects and bigger ideas that have more room to move the needle in bigger ways per unit of input. And then at the end, really, there's breakthrough innovation, exponential or game-changing innovation that I see firsthand. And the way that I would characterize my role in that breakthrough innovation today is primarily in an advisory role, so that the innovators and the entrepreneurs that have those breakthrough ideas can more effectively bring them to life and have the impact that they expect. So that is kind of my journey in a snapshot. You know, the way that we define innovation in our work is the conversion of creativity into value for stakeholders. And, you know, the reason why that definition came to life is because I was underwhelmed by the prevailing definitions that were out there. Most of them, historically, innovation has been considered something that has to be new, and its literal origins as a word absolutely are connected to that. But the time frame in which that word was created was a different world, a nearly unrecognizable world that we live in today. And, you know, just as a little thought experiment, you know, how many of the prevailing paradigms of that day, the world was flat, the earth was at the center of the entire universe, how many of those do we still hold as critical to the way that we see the world today? But this is the same time frame in which the word innovation was created. And so the idea that we have to hold this newness as such a important factor of innovation, I think actually limits the ability to find those additional pathways and opportunities for innovation to be realized. And when we talk about it being the conversion part, that's recognizing that it's a process and gives you the ability to learn and enhance your capacity to be an innovator. It's not something that you're born with, or you're not, or you're a creative person, or you're not a creative person. It is something that can be worked on and developed. And the outcomes of a bunch of people working on those things over time can grow and be improved as well. So a system that allows for that to occur. But the most important part of that definition that is different than the historic definitions is the word value. If we're doing a bunch of stuff, if we're coming up with ideas and we're never converting those ideas into value, then we're not effectively utilizing the resources that went in to come up with that stuff. And we certainly shouldn't have claim to a better future because of just those ideas. We need to use that incredible amount of going back to the word I used earlier, grit and perseverance applied in a way that you're creating value, and not just for yourself, but for a broader suite of stakeholders. And the reason we use the word stakeholder is also important because it recognizes that the customer is one type of many stakeholders that ultimately need you to deliver value to them. There's also end users, there's super users, there's casual users, there's members of the community, there's people that don't even know your company exists that are actually stakeholders or don't know about the innovation or the entrepreneurial endeavor that you're working on. But yet they're stakeholders in the realization of a broader context of value. And it really makes it that the role of the innovator, of the entrepreneur, now can shift, now can be focused on how do I broker value? How do I ensure that value, the most value, can be obtained and realized to the people that are counting on me to do that? And I think it's just liberating to think about it in those terms. So if that is a good intro, Richard, we can, or if we want to go through anything else, please just let me know.
No, I think that's a fantastic intro. I wanted to just add a few comments. Then I know that Bill has a few questions that that he's collected from students and from others that he thinks that would be interested, and then we can ask the people participating in this. I wanted to just make a couple points to what Kevin meant, and I'll start off with a conversation that we had in preparation for this, where we were talking about we'll say concern by many students, many people coming out of college about preparation and the unprecedented change. And Kevin and I were talking, and Kevin said, well, there's always been change. This is different change, but there's always been uncertainty. There's always been differences. That's what innovation is. There's always been people having to change what they do and how they do that. And I think that's real important. The other thing I wanted to mention is it's not what you're born with. It's not some people were born with innate intelligence or innate innovation. Much of this can be learned in the sense of what you're doing, and it's all about learning to become a value creator in every context. It's a mindset, and there's just a couple ideas that I think that we should always keep in mind as we do this. One is there's many new technologies, many new approaches coming in. And of those, seeing things like artificial intelligence, 3D printing, they are tools. They can take over some jobs that people once took or once did, but they're still going to need human beings that have a human being's mind and attitude and socialness and networked ability to do this. Another is that people that excel in this typically have, we'll call it, this is an old word at RIT, but we don't use it too much, but we call it T-learning. And that is people come in and they might have an engineering background, they might have a marketing background, they might have more of a social science background, but they have a deep knowledge, but then they have a wide knowledge. And that wide knowledge is what you accumulate by doing the things that Kevin has talked about, networking to your many stakeholders. And that includes finding problems and finding new ways of doing things where you're just not kind of in a little module. I think there's a challenge when you're a technology expert or an expert in anything to be in your little place and to do your job. But I don't think that that's a safe place to be. It might appear like it is.
Yeah.
The safest place to be is to look at all the stakeholders that use your stuff, to look at the customers that you're talking to or the data you're putting, looking at the people that facilitate the creation of the product, look at who uses the product, look at what the problems are, what the pain points are. And if you're someone that has this knowledge, let's say that you're a software developer, or we'll even say an industrial engineer. Kevin, can I say an industrial engineer? And you have this deep knowledge in an area, you need to look at what you're doing and why you're doing it, and the people that use your things. And you have to always ask why. If you're in the new environment, if you're not being, let's just say, a self-starter, and you're just staying in your space, you're at a disadvantage. Why are we doing this? What are the unmet needs? Because value is created with problems and unmet needs. And if you're always looking for that, then you can put that together. And that is a soft skill. It's not a deep skill. It's the expansion skill. So I think that's really important for people to know. And for RIT students, it's also important. The soft skills are very important. How do you work with people? Because in this new environment, if you can't work well with people and it's a team sport, you're going to be regulated to being in a module or being an inventor. And you want to be more than that. You want to be somebody that makes something, but understands why you make it and understands why you need to change it. So I think all those things are important. For those of you, and I look to see who is participating in this talk, some of you are students, some of you I do not recognize, and you may not be students. But what we tried to do here at RIT is build both the deep knowledge, but also the broad knowledge, so that we can help people through mentoring, so we can help people through experiential learning to be able to develop these skills, because the best way to develop the skills is to do the things that we're talking about. And if you look over, I'm hoping you can all see Kevin's kind of outline of his career. I was struck by a bunch of these, but the lower right hand side is what I like the best, where it says wisdom. And wisdom is, I'll use a little classical training here, is the virtue of prudential judgment, and how you use different things different ways, and how you look for ideas, how you put them together, how you understand that failing should be done quickly. If something doesn't work, and you change it, you pivot it. If it appears like nobody likes what you're doing, and you move on, and you don't focus on the past, you focus on the future. But getting these experiential skills are so important to learning that and overcoming yourself of being right. I'm right about, well, if you talk to the people that work for me, they'd say I'm right about 10% of the time. I'm hoping it's about 49% of the time. But the whole point is, when you figure out you didn't make the right decision, or you went and you're testing something and it's not working, you pivot, and you pivot to what works well. All right. So I think those are the kind of talks. If someone asks questions, we can tell them about some of the experiential activities that we do here at RIT. And you get out of a degree what you put into it. So if you just go to the classes, you'll get something. But if you go to the classes and you get all the mentoring that's available, you get all the experiential activities, it just makes you something. It prepares you and gives you skills that you wouldn't have had. So having said that, I'm going to put myself on mute. Kevin, do you want to make a response to that?
I just have a couple things, maybe.
Sure.
Like, as far as the technology goes, technology is a tool, and like any tool, it has to be used appropriately.
Mhm.
And not everybody that holds a particular tool in their hand is a master craftsman with that tool, or woman. And so as a university student, I would just encourage you to, like, try out as many of these tools as you can, because it's a very low risk environment. This is a beautiful place. I mean, you talk about the value of education, formal education shifting over time. This is where I think RIT excels. And what I will always appreciate in my time at RIT is that representation of the T that Richard talked about, but also the skills that I left are the things that were desired in the workforce. And it wouldn't have mattered if I went to Boeing or any of the other companies that I did co-ops with in the automotive industry or the financial services industries. I was equipped when I entered the workforce to a large degree, because it wasn't a separate thing in how I got my degree between the work that I would be doing and what I was studying. They are one and the same at RIT, and that's exceptional from my perspective. The other thing, from a technology development perspective, and the focus of this portion of the MBA program, is having the ability to recognize the underlying value of that technology that you're pursuing, or series of technologies that enable better outcomes with fewer resources or higher quality, or whatever the goal is that you're trying to pursue in your endeavor, to make sure that you do that in a way that will actually add value, and not just because everyone is talking about blockchain or everybody's talking about AI. Oh, I must do it as a result. When I was just coming in, it was in high school. We were doing these assessments on what you be based on how you answer some of these questions. And then they would juxtapose that with, what are these emerging markets? And so biotechnology was just emerging at the time. And they're like, if you want to be a leader here, this is what. But that's I think the wrong way to think about it. Like, I'm sure I could have learned a lot of what I learned at Boeing in a biotech field. There's some parallels. It's highly regulated. Maybe the cycles are a little faster in biotech in certain areas, slower in others. But when when there's a disconnect between what actually motivates us and gets us excited and how we apply technology focus or technology emphasis to realizing change in that area, and you can be adept at any of those technologies, where and understanding the ability to critically evaluate when to apply them and when not, that's a skill that is going to have value for your entire career. And I would encourage you to continually kind of work on that. And I'm confident that the program at RIT will equip you to do so.
So Bill, do you, I know you had some questions, but do you want to share any of your thoughts on this discussion so far? And then add whatever questions that you may want to ask.
Thanks, Richard. I'm going to go into questions, but it's because of what I'm thinking about. This is just a great conversation, and for students or prospective students who are listening to this is not scripted in any way. Richard and Kevin and I, we connected a few weeks ago and talked about what we might discuss today. But it's just leading me to think about a whole bunch of different things. So, Kevin, I really appreciate the whole overview and the whole discussion. But at one point early in it, you were talking about innovation and using the phrase a lot. And I had written a note to myself to ask you to define how you saw it. Thinking about what does innovation mean, thinking about Richard's role as director of our Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And I really appreciate the definition you used: conversion of creativity into value for shareholders. Stakeholders, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is the CPA in me thinking about the corporation. And really that got me thinking about, so I started my career in one of the global accounting and consulting firms at Deloitte. And maybe I didn't stay long enough, but it was very hard to truly innovate, or maybe I hadn't found my path. And I think I did find my path after that. And, I would just say I've innovated my own career. I didn't choose this career direction. I ended up doing a whole bunch of things with my career that were not on my radar when I was getting out of school. So I think that's probably, similar in some ways to your story. I think trying to find how you can create value and what that value might mean, and who can be impacted by it and who can benefit from it, I think is really a critical point of a lot of what you were talking about. But I was thinking that you started your career in a traditional environment, traditional kind of position, 180,000 employee corporation. Did you find it difficult? Or along the line, when did you become innovative in that position? When did you look to do things that were different, or was it just the environment you were put in that enabled that?
So I think, and I'm not trying to say this boastfully, but I think it's in my nature to do a couple of things that lead me more naturally to pursue innovative things, maybe than the average person. And I'm not saying I'm the world's greatest innovator. Don't hear me that way. But one, I look at things from a systems perspective. And before I even got a degree from Industrial and Systems Department at RIT, without knowing that was a formal discipline, I've been thinking about systems implications for a very long time before I even got into college, without knowing it. And one quick example is I'm from rural upstate New York. I was born in Cooperstown, raised not far from there. It was, I don't believe it still is, but was at the time acceptable to burn your own trash. We had a trash barrel in our backyard, and we would separate out all the plastics and styrofoams and have it be only combustible, like actual combustible materials. But my brother-in-law, who is a number of years older than me and had been in the Navy, and I got to go visit him on his aircraft carrier when I was a kid. It was like such a highlight as a kid to be on a Navy base and on a Navy ship. but he was burning styrofoams and plastics. And I was like, what are you doing? And this is like, he's 10 years older than me, at least at that time, maybe even more. And he's like, oh, what's this little bit of plastic gonna matter? Like, I'm using a burn barrel, but I'm like, yeah, but how many other millions of people in New York or tens of millions of people across the country are doing that same thing? And what's the impact cumulatively of that same behavior? And I didn't know how to articulate it and understand that this is something that I'm really excited about, and looking at problems in this broader way, in this more systemic or comprehensive way. But I think that's one thing for me personally. And then the other is I am a nonconformist by default. I don't like to do things just because everyone else is doing them. It's not to say that I don't do things that everyone else likes to do, but the thing that motivates me isn't that everyone else is doing it. And if I feel like I'm doing something that is just because everyone else is doing it, and I don't see that connection to the value or how it can be, or that it's at an optimal state, it makes me, without even meaning to, question it and try and find alternative solutions or alternative ways to do it. And this applies to me in music that I listen to. It applies in industrial processes that I'm evaluating on a floor. It's with an idea of supporting a startup and an idea that could change the world. And all of those two factors together, I think, is the long way of answering your question, Bill, is I think I always was looking for innovative solutions to the problems that were proximate to my career needs. And so early on in my career, less, you start off, you have a little bit of responsibility, and over time that responsibility may grow. That certainly was the case for my career, but trying to do things more innovatively and without using the word innovative is how I approach things. And that's what gave me this opportunity to have more and more responsibility, and then actively start to think about, oh yeah, that was innovation, even though I wasn't calling it innovation. And so a number of those cycles happened in my career across a bunch of different disciplines. And then I really got excited about the idea of like, oh, how can we unlock this at scale for a company with almost 200,000 employees? Think about the potential of impact that could have if everybody was able to do that just a little bit better. The cumulative effect of driving access to innovation and outcomes through innovation. And that's where I really kicked it into a different level. And the positions that I had when I left the company didn't exist when I started there. Like, the position was created because we were exploring these things in a way that was demonstrating the value across the country, or in the company and the world. So hopefully that answers the question a little bit.
It absolutely does. I'm thinking though, if you're starting a career now, if you're considering graduate school in business, or whatever, even if that's not your past, but you're starting a career and you're looking to get into a situation where you may be able to create opportunities for yourself like that. Do you have any suggestions, recommendations for how students, new people into the workforce might approach that?
I think a couple of things. One, being an active student, or if we just say, if you're considering being in the program, let's assume that you are in the program, you have unbelievable access to people that I wish I had taken better advantage of as a student. It wasn't until I was working on my MBA that I started to actually do this more effectively. But you have a free calling card as a student to basically connect with anybody inside of any company, any industry, anything. That if you can say, hey, I'm interested in a problem in your industry and I'm studying this, there's very few people that'll say, I'm not interested. And that builds your network at I would say an exponential rate when you're effective at doing that. And that network you can call on throughout your career potentially. And so that's one thing that I would certainly encourage students to think about to the maximum extent possible. Really try and figure out, what is it about myself that's preventing me from fully embracing this calling card that I have, this free opportunity? And you know what, whether we want to tap into stereotypes of the introverted engineer or other limitations, ultimately it's looking at yourself in the mirror and just asking, is this helping me or hindering me in what it is that I'm trying to do in the world? And I would imagine that you can find ways, if you answer that, if you're honest in the answer to that, to either enhance it or overcome the limitation. Another thing I would recommend is, far too often we consume too many resources trying to fix things that don't need to be fixed. And that is at a personal level and organizational level, system-wide level. You know, if we are constantly trying to fix the things that really don't need to be fixed, that don't have a measurable or meaningful impact, but some new book came out that said you need to be able to do this if you want to be a billionaire, or who knows what drivers there are. There's countless number of them, I suppose. But if you focus on your strengths, focus on those things that are uniquely and genuinely you, and only focus on the negatives that stop you from expressing those best attributes of yourself, or that are critical gaps that must be overcome and filled for people to appreciate those genuinely pure benefits that you can bring to the world.
Incredibly well said. I got to tell you, among the some of the things you were saying led me to think about myself. So I'm an introverted CPA, right? Started in accounting, and that's really been my core. But over time, certainly creativity and innovation have been a fundamental part of what I do. But something very basic, which I tell my students, you encounter situations that systems are established, people are established, they're doing things certain ways. Everything is kind of, this is the way we do it. And, you can really make a big difference by just asking why. When you encounter something that doesn't seem to make sense, or that you think there may be a better way, just ask the question, why? Why do we always do it this way? Why have we done it like this in the past?
Yeah.
And just, that alone leads to a lot of, maybe small changes, but those changes, as you said at the outset, those things can really add up to significant improvements. So, thanks for sharing your comments there. Really,
Yeah, just one more thing about that accumulation.
I can't articulate here. Please.
That accumulation of value. So through our work, we've developed this concept of the cumulative value realization curve. And what it does is it if you think about typical scalable tech company, the expectation from venture capitalists, angel investors, institutional investors, they want to see exponential returns on their investment. They know they're not going to get that on every single opportunity they invest in, but just one of them out of 100 pays for all the rest, essentially. So we took that same exponential curve and said, well, this looks interesting. If we look at the definition of innovation that we use, the conversion of creativity into value for stakeholders, at the very flat part of that exponential curve is where most of the activity happens. So most of our innovations, most of our creative activities we don't even recognize. They're filtered out by our brains before we can even recognize that we can articulate, that we can speak them, we can write them down. So at the flattest part, the smallest amount of value in that cumulative value realization curve is where ideas happen. Then a little bit of effort gets put into it. The conversion process begins. And now we have a little bit, a more mature output of that creativity, where maybe now it's not an idea. Maybe we now have an invention. But that invention itself, there's no requirement that it creates value. You can go file a patent tomorrow, demonstrate that it has some novel appeal, but you don't have to say that it's going to create value for anybody. And so then we move up the curve and we get into innovation. And we'll skip over innovation for a second. And then we go further up the curve and we get to commercialization. And so most of the value, the accumulated value is going to happen when that curve is shooting straight up. You know, the hockey stick is kind of the proverbial description of it. That hockey stick shooting up is where most of the value will occur. Innovation's role is that brokerage between creativity, ideas, inventions, and commercialization. And when you integrate innovation into those processes, you de-risk the commercial risk of an endeavor. And so that cumulative value realization curve, I think that accumulation of value over time, then this is where the dorky engineer and business school stuff comes in. If you take the instantaneous at any point in time, you should know the value that your company is at. So you should be able to match up the expectations of value from your investors to where you're actually delivering value on that curve. Then you also can take the area under the curve and know the total value so you know your valuation and the total value potential that you should have based on where you are going forward. So it's this idea of accumulating the benefit over and accounting for that benefit, to use your discipline, is really, I think, an area where we can do a lot more research and demonstrate results with similar models out there.
I'm going to have to stop my participation right now because I know Richard is waiting to jump in, and Matt is asking if any of the students have any questions. Richard?
No, actually, I can certainly address those questions, but I would actually rather the students, if they have questions, jump in now, because I know we have a limited amount of time, and I'm always available to students or prospective students if they want to reach out to me. So Matt, are there questions?
I have not seen any yet, but I'll keep an eye out for those. We've got about 10 minutes left, so definitely anything that comes up, feel free to ask away.
Well, I'm going to ask a question to Kevin. Let's assume for a moment you're an undergrad or you're a grad student with limited amounts of experience. What would you say to begin this preparation as a value creator and an innovator? What would you say would be the first steps for you doing that? What would you say would be a great way to prep for the first 2 or 3 years in selecting jobs, in orienting yourself at the office to teach yourself this, or online if it may be that way?
Well, I developed a course called Innovate Anything, which was kind of in the title here. But the idea of that, so this was a college course for a school on the West Coast. But applying the mindset, I think, would be a skill that anybody could quickly grasp and practice. So the idea is, if you take any 2 disciplines that you're interested in and start with things you're interested in, it would be the first recommendation. Like, to practice these things, to be proficient at them, start with the stuff you care about. And I don't care if it's you love cat videos on YouTube, or you want to make sure we have a more sustainable and inclusive economy. Like, it doesn't matter what that you care about it. And it doesn't have to be you care about it for the rest of your life. You care about it for a week or however long that you care to stay focused on it. Ask yourself, what are the major drivers when I compare? So the Innovate Anything, we take 2 disciplines. And if we use, for example, the law and cinematic arts, what are the greatest innovations that have happened in both of those disciplines? What are the enablers? And where are things going in those fields? Then shut off the rest of the world, and now you only have those 2 things at your disposal. What new innovations can you come up with? How can you take just those 2 things and reimagine a world that's aligned with the thing that you care about? And you can do this an infinite number of times for an infinite number of combinations of comparisons. And doing that over and over again builds this capacity to be able to look at anything, whether it's thrown at you at a school project, given to you as a tiger team, they call, these focus teams inside of that's no pun intended for RIT Tigers. The tiger teams inside of a corporation are usually like a rapid response team investigating a problem or an opportunity in a meaningful way. You take these teams and now you're more equipped to deliver solutions faster because you have this skill set that is able to use this approach to innovation in a very tangible way. You can also take that thing, like for your specific thing, we also oftentimes facilitate teams through this tool called imaginary brainstorming. And it's when your team is like hitting against the wall and can't get a breakthrough for a problem that it's facing. It just seems like no progress is being made at all. This approach breaks the problem down in a way that you categorize the major components of the problem, and then you inject fanciful or funny alternatives to that problem. So like, how would Mickey Mouse solve this problem? And it just makes you think about things in a different way. And breaking that train of thought, I think, is critical. And that's what this Innovate Anything mentality can do also. It can break that train of thought that you only can think about advancements in the thing you care about in certain ways. No, you can constantly be injecting new ways to think about interactions that could happen, experiences that could result, value that could be created.
No, I like that. One of the things that I share with some of our students is, and again, this isn't about the innovation process, but it's about understanding how the pieces fit together, is to create a stakeholders map on where you work.
Great.
And it's kind of like, who are these stakeholders? What are their problems? And then finding opportunities, because it's so easy not to talk to them.
Yep.
In your little world, to find opportunities at conferences, at sessions, to go out with people, take the extra effort to create this map and look at their problems and look at how things are doing it, and then use the innovative techniques that you've said. And it's just all of a sudden your world opens to not just what you do, but the entire value chain and the problems in that value chain.
Totally. Like the Steve Blank get out of the building mindset.
Right.
I 100% endorse. We can live in convenience. I would rather live in reality than convenience. Convenience is having someone else do the research and you get the Twitter version on your cell phone. Right? That's convenience, but that may not necessarily be reality if you look at the nuance and the detail associated with whatever it is that you're talking about. So living in that reality and equipping yourself with the skills to be able to understand what is real and what is not, I think is very much a part of what you're saying there.
Bill, do you have more questions? How much time do we have, Matt?
We've got a couple minutes left. We got about 3 minutes until 1. So
I've got one more. This was actually come from some students. So we talk about technology. If you're going for for a graduate degree and you're going to try to, focus on technology. And you touched on this a little bit earlier, but how should a student figure out where to be going? I mean, there's so many different opportunities, so many different things they can do. And technology is, this massively broad phrase. And you had said, you got blockchain and AI, and there's all kinds of different things going on. But, how might they find what it is that, the sector, the area, the technologies that they think are best suited to what their skill set is and what their interests are?
Yeah, so I would think about it selfishly first. I mean, I would think about, of those technologies, how might I be able to apply that to be more effective as a student, to be more effective, if I'm just coming into a company. One of the things that I try and do every time I work with a new organization or join a new organization is kind of bite my tongue and make sure I really understand what's happening before I try and inject a bunch of change and movement. So what technologies could I employ? Like, I'm asking myself right now, what technologies could I employ to make me more effective at doing that, of getting that data that I need to make decisions faster, so I don't have to wait 3 to 6 months before we start injecting change. I can be just as effective 3 weeks. So I think thinking about it in terms of a selfish outcome is not a bad place to start when it comes to evaluating these technologies. Now, I'm not doing a full simulation of my daily routine before I go to work every day using the latest simulation software. So, it doesn't always work 100%, but at a macro level, would I like to be able to simulate the decisions I'm making in the world and see if I could do it better? Yeah, sure. So I do think, there are limitations to that mindset, but I do think it's a good place to start.
Thank you. Yeah, I think everybody finding their place to start is really the critical element that figuring that out is the key, the challenge. Matt, I know we're closing in on the end of time here, so I don't want to the end of our time, hopefully not the end of time.
Be a tough way to end it.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. And Kevin, thank you again for being here. Really appreciate the time. This was awesome. And I appreciate everybody who attended. We did record this, so I will share with anybody else who couldn't make it, and things like that, but certainly appreciate it. And it was a great conversation. So
One last comment I would like to make is that when people do enter some of our graduate programs in entrepreneurship and innovation, or the MBA with an innovation or entrepreneurship kind of concentration, we could not survive without the kind contributions of our alumni data, of our alums. And Kevin is one of them. Kevin comes in once or twice a year and does a speaker series that we have. We also give coaches to individuals that have ideas or just want coaches to explore one field and find value in those. So there's a lot of opportunities. And again, thank you so much for Kevin. Our model, the way we do things here, is very much rely upon our network and the expertise of our network. So thank you very much. And thanks everyone for coming. Final word to you, Matt.
Yeah, no, again, appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Definitely reach out if you have questions on exploring programs, and I can certainly connect folks with again, our fantastic network. So we're happy to do that. But thanks again, everybody. Have a good day and a good weekend.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, interpreters.
Have a great weekend. Yeah, thank you.